We start here in Japan, where Osaka and 2 other prefectures are tightening coronavirus measures to curb a spike in new cases. The focus is on a limited area and period of time in the hopes of containing the situation so another state of emergency is avoided. Osaka is now seeing more daily infections than anywhere else in the country. Officials reported 341 cases on Monday, the 3rd largest figure for that day of the week since the pandemic began. Bars and restaurants are being urged to close by 8 p.m., stop using karaoke machines, and refuse customers who don't take precautions. Osaka city officials started patrolling entertainment districts to ensure those rules are observed.
There are around 40,000 eateries in the city. Your mission is essential to curb the infection.
The governor says he wants to issue a type of certificate, such as a window sign, to establishments that take thorough antivirus measures. Meanwhile, it's unlikely Olympic torchbearers will run on public roads in Osaka City as the torch relay makes its way through the prefecture next week. Nationwide, vaccinations for people aged 65 and older are set to start in a week. Some municipalities started accepting reservations on Monday. The first delivery to Hachioji City in Tokyo will be 1,900 doses. Inoculations for the first round were fully booked in about 90 minutes. Now, the government says it'll be able to ship out enough vaccines by the end of June to give 2 doses to an estimated 36 million senior citizens. Across Japan, officials reported more than 1,500 new cases on Monday, including 249 in Tokyo. The head of the government's expert panel is concerned about the current situation.
More and more people are coming out both during the day and at night. We will see the effect of this in a week or 2. Given the situation, I'm afraid something similar to what's happening in Osaka could happen in Tokyo.
Also in Japan, the president of one of the country's major financial groups has apologized again for systems failures that shut down ATMs across the country. He said the problems have been fixed and the machines are more secure.
I would like to apologize deeply from the bottom of my heart. We aim to drastically strengthen our crisis management system and enhance our organizational strength.
In the worst incident in late February, 80% of Mizuho Bank's ATMs were affected nationwide. Customers were unable to withdraw cash, and in some cases, the machines swallowed their cards and bank books. Mizuho says it's made changes that'll stop its ATMs from eating cards and bank books if the system goes down again. It also says it'll respond more quickly to future systems failures and send out employees to check affected ATMs as soon as possible. A prominent Japanese scriptwriter has died of acute lymphoma at the age of 95. Hashida Sugako was best known as the author of the legendary NHK morning drama series, Oshin. Hashida was born in present-day Seoul in 1925. She joined major Japanese film studio Shochiku in 1949 and later became a freelance scriptwriter of TV dramas. The Oshin series was aired in 1983 and 1984. It followed the life of a fictitious woman and the many hardships she endured from her childhood in the Meiji period until her final days in the 1980s. Oshin not only won high acclaim in Japan, but gained popularity around the world. It was aired in more than 60 countries and regions, mainly in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. People in Iran reacted sharply to the news their favorite Japanese scriptwriter had passed away. A woman in Tehran said she was sad to hear the news and hoped Hashida would rest in peace.
I really liked the drama. Back then, I always finished my work on time so I could watch Oshin.
The Hashida Cultural Foundation said she died on Sunday at her home in Shizuoka Prefecture. Turning now to a new development in the cyberbullying case that led to the suicide of a Japanese professional wrestler and reality star Kimura Hana. Tokyo police have asked prosecutors to charge a second man suspected of slandering her online. Kimura was appearing in the reality show Terrace House, broadcast by Fuji Television. The 22-year-old took her own life last May after becoming the target of cyberbullying. Police found the man in his 30s and living in the central prefecture of Fukui posted about Kimura 4 times, saying she's gross and should die. They say the man admitted to making the posts and apologized. Last week, a man in his 20s in Osaka was ordered to pay a fine of about $80. He's the first person to be charged in Kimura's case. Investigators continue to look into hundreds of similar slanderous comments directed toward Kimura. Kimura's mother, Kyoko, issued a statement saying she appreciates the investigative efforts being made by various institutions. The mother called for urgent action to save the records of online activities for a long time to prevent such tragedies from happening again. India logged a daily record of over 103,000 coronavirus cases on Monday. The western state of Maharashtra reported more than half of them and has stepped up countermeasures. The government in India's richest state has imposed a nighttime curfew and weekend lockdowns from Monday through the end of April. Cases in India have rebounded since late February. The central government says the country has entered the second wave of infections. India's vaccination program started in January, but only about 5% of the nation's 1.3 billion people have had their first shot. Last week, the government expanded eligibility for the jab to include those aged 45 or older. Neighboring Bangladesh is also struggling with a sharp rise in cases. The government began a one-week nationwide lockdown on Monday after a record number of daily infections was reported. Next, on the deadly situation in Myanmar, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has stressed Beijing supports ASEAN's principle of non-interference on the internal affairs of member countries. Wang held talks last week in China with his counterparts from 4 Southeast Asian countries, including Singapore and Malaysia. On Myanmar, the state-run Xinhua news agency quoted Wang as saying he and the ASEAN diplomats urged concerned parties to advance the democratic transformation process. Wang avoided directly criticizing Myanmar's military, but indicated China supports ASEAN's constructive role in responding to the crisis. As for last week's emergency meeting of the UN Security Council on Myanmar, China's foreign ministry said Wang told the Philippine foreign minister unjust intervention that undermines Myanmar's sovereignty and further complicates the situation should be avoided. Wang has also stressed Beijing will stand firm in any showdown with the United States. Xinhua quoted him as saying China welcomes cooperation, but if there's confrontation, his country will deal with it calmly and face it fearlessly. Wang's remarks come as Washington is working with its allies and partners to craft what appears to be a containment strategy toward Beijing. A Japanese swimmer who qualified for the Tokyo Olympics just months after completing cancer treatment is encouraging people who are fighting the same disease. Ike Rikako took top place Sunday in the women's 100-meter butterfly final at Japan's national championships, her first in 3 years. The 20-year-old swimming star was diagnosed with leukemia in February 2019. She returned to competition in August last year, following a 10-month hospital stay. The athlete had been aiming for the 2024 Paris Games, but will now go for gold in the 400-meter medley relay this summer. The Japan Marrow Donor Program celebrated Ike's achievement, commenting on Twitter it was overwhelmed, and hoped her success would deepen understanding of the illness and encourage people to donate their bone marrow.
I think this news gave hope to the patients fighting this illness and to their families and others.
The Bone Marrow Bank is a system to register people willing to donate bone marrow for transplants, which are effective in treating leukemia and other diseases. Japanese baseball sensation Ohtani Shohei had a day rarely seen in the history of Major League Baseball. The two-way player for the Los Angeles Angels started a game on the mound and batted second in the lineup, belting a mammoth home run in his first at-bat. The Angels hosted the Chicago White Sox on Sunday at their home stadium in California. Ohtani pitched well from the start, holding the White Sox scoreless in the first. And at the plate, Ohtani was just as strong. Batting second in the first inning, he ripped a solo homer, his second four-bagger of the season. It was the first time in 118 years a starting pitcher had batted so high in the lineup. Ohtani struck out 7 and gave up just 2 hits. He didn't give up any runs until the 5th inning. While covering home plate, he was knocked to the ground by a sliding runner. He was removed from the game and lost his chance to be the winning pitcher. The Angels went on to win the game 7-4 with a walk-off 3-run homer.
My pitching was also good on the whole. I feel my batting was almost perfect. I'm glad I was able to perform the way I did in a regular season game.
The Angels' general manager said Ohtani was sore and wasn't pulled from the game due to injury. Switching gears now to the weather. Drier conditions are expected across Japan on Tuesday. Our meteorologist Jonathan Oh has the outlook for here and elsewhere in our World Weather Report.
Hello, it looks like we're going to be dealing with a mostly clear day, at least for a good portion of Japan as we go through Tuesday. We had to deal with some clouds and some rain and falling temperatures as we saw the front push away with cold air filtering in. We are looking at temperatures to be a little bit below average for this time of year for Tuesday, but then we'll see temperatures rising back up as we head toward the end of this week for most of Japan. High pressure will be building in, but you notice this cold front will be swinging through, and that's going to help to also bring some possibilities of some colder weather for the northern areas of Japan as well. Look at this hot portal going from 12 to 5 by Thursday. Looking at rain, maybe even some snow to talk about by the second half of this week. Tokyo 16 for the high on Tuesday. We typically see highs of around 18 for this time of year. So we're going to be cool for Tuesday, but then we do bump back up to closer to normal.
Flooding caused by Cyclone Seroja on eastern Indonesian islands and East Timor kills more than 100 people, with many still missing. In Mozambique, hundreds of people fleeing conflict in Palma are flowing into the port city of Pemba, which is struggling with a refugee crisis. Vietnam's legislature voted on Monday to make Pham Minh Chinh prime minister. The outgoing prime minister was appointed president. And European Council President Charles Michel said Sunday that all foreign fighters must leave Libya so the country can rebuild.
The police chief in the U.S. city of Minneapolis has testified in the trial of the white police officer on trial for the murder of George Floyd. He said that Derek Chauvin violated the department's policy on the use of force. Jordan's court says former Crown Prince Hamza has pledged to remain committed to the constitution and is placing himself in the hands of the king. It comes after he was accused of plotting to destabilise the kingdom. Boris Johnson has said he will be having a beer at the pub next week, confirming that open-air hospitality can resume in England. But he said there was no room for complacency about easing restrictions. And the Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a law that will allow him to serve for 2 more terms. Legislation could potentially see him stay in office until 2036.